I think that being true to who you are is the most difficult lesson that you can learn as a grown-up. I think that I spent my 20s thinking that I knew who I was, but I had no idea who I was. And I didn't know that I was learning and figuring out who I was. And that's okay. I mean, if you're in your 20s, that's what you're supposed to do in your 20s. In my 30s, I like myself so much more now than I did in my 20s. Although in my 20s, I didn't even know that I didn't like myself. I don't know if that makes sense, but I have spent so I am about to be 38, and I would say I've spent the better part of the last 20 years trying to figure out who I am. And part of learning who you are requires mimicking other people. Okay, I mean, you can take that with music. You can look at it with preaching. Preaching, probably I can illustrate better. The very first sermon my husband ever preached, I don't know if you've ever heard him say this before, was a Tony Evans sermon that he memorized. You got to start somewhere, okay? You have to have heroes. You have to have a model for what you want to be. And so it's okay to have someone that you're like, oh, when he preaches, it hits me. And if I could ever do that for people, or when she speaks in front of people, or the way that I watch this person lead, I want to follow them. So if you have someone that you want to follow, then follow them and then mimic them and lead like them. But then you can't stay there. You have to develop, and you have to become your own person. And I think self-awareness is the number one ingredient that you need to be a successful adult. And the funny thing is, a lot of people never get there. And so if you have someone in your life that you're just perpetually frustrated with, that you feel like, I can't, my relationship is always struggling with this person. A lot of times that person has little to no self-awareness for whatever reason. It's a maturity thing, but maturity is strange because you can be mature on the outside, I mean, people like, how to act when you learn social behavior, but some people never learn themselves, and they never know what their strengths and what their weaknesses are, and they don't listen to the people that are in their lives. I'm a little overextended in this season of my life. I feel like, do you ever get to a point where you feel like, if one more thing gets added to my plate, it's all gonna crumble. So I feel that way in my life right now, because I am in the middle of leading. I have a leadership group called LOL, and on the surface it seems like, what's the big deal? Well, we read a book a month, and then we come together and I basically teach on that book, which means I have to read the book at a different level than everybody else is reading the book. So I'm not just like audio booking it, okay? I am taking a page of notes per chapter on average of whatever book we read. And the last book that we read was 22 chapters, okay? I picked the book, so it's my own fault. But so I'm doing that, and I am preaching on Mother's Day, and I'm writing this Bible study for our people in the fall. It's called Building Friendships That Fit, and BFF, and it's one of those things that I was super excited about, but now that my deadlines are right up on me, I'm freaking out, okay? So my point in telling you that is, sometimes though, you get to a place in your life where you're overextended because you made a bunch of stupid decisions. True. And other times, you're just at a place where you know that it's an opportunity for the Lord to really come through and to sustain you. And then you can look back and be like, there's no way I could have done that if God had not been guiding me along. So the cool thing is, and my husband teaches this, that the more you pour, the more God pours into you. Is that how I said it?
Yeah, sounds
okay.
great.
So it's more like the more you're pouring out, the more He's pouring in.
Right.
So while I was working on the teaching for LOL, it was talking about blind spots, and at this simultaneously, I'm trying to in the Bible study, attempting to take a woman Bible character for each of the 4 weeks and kind of look at that character through the lens of friendship. There aren't a lot of woman friendships in the Bible, but like a lesson. It's more like a lesson in friendship that you can learn from this person's story. So I'm in the book of Judges reading about Samson because I thought, well, what better person to teach on like bad friends than to talk about Delilah, right? Even though it's a love relationship, so it's kind of muddy. But so I'm reading about Samson, I'm reading about blind spots, and it all sort of like comes together for me. What could he possibly have been thinking? She said, "Tell me the secret of your strength." Every time she did exactly what he told her, and every time the Philistines came upon him. And then, the fourth time, it says, the Bible says that she nagged him to the point of like he was like completely angry and done with her and whatever. And then so he actually told her. So I have all these theories on. I actually don't think that I think that he didn't actually think that his secret was in his hair. That he had just completely taken for granted the fact that the Spirit of the Lord would come upon him. I think he took that for granted, and I think one of the absolute saddest verses in the Bible is in that Judges, I think it's Judges 16, where she cuts his hair. She says, "Samson, the Philistines are upon you." He rises up, to defeat them, and it says he did not realize that the power of the Lord had left him, and to okay, so I'm coming back full circle to the whole self-awareness thing. Blind spots are only blind to you. Yeah. If it's your blind spot, it's your blind spot. You don't know. Yeah. So she was like, in essence, she was his blind spot. Yep. Yeah. So when I read the story, I'm like, how could you not see that this woman was playing you all along? But it was his blind spot. He couldn't see you. You can't see what you can't see, okay? Yeah. And so I think that's the trickiest part of self-awareness is how do you have self-awareness? How do you even know you don't have self-awareness if you don't have it? Yeah. And I also think that the way that you find self-awareness is by listening to those around you. Mm-hmm. So when you have people in your life that you trust and people that you that have earned the right to speak into your life, not everybody, okay? God, not everybody, and not even somebody who's been in your life for a long time necessarily has the right to speak into your life, okay? And I mean, again, that's what Pastor Steve was talking about yesterday when he said who you're seeking validation from. And sometimes the person that I'm seeking validation from is the completely wrong person. It could be a parent who, just is, nothing you do is ever good enough for them. So if you're seeking validation from them, you're drinking from the wrong well, So the way that if you have a blind spot, you have to realize that it's your blind spot, and the only way that if somebody's in your blind spot, the only way that you can see them is if you speed up or slow down or move or change your position, right? So I think that a lot of times God sends people into our lives and he whispers things to us through other people, but we don't want to hear it, and we become defensive, and we make excuses, we blame. And really, it's God giving you an opportunity to see a blind spot that you have and giving you an opportunity for self-awareness. Yeah. Right. But you look at it as this person's attacking me. Mm-hmm. And so I think that the two the two main ways that you can gain self-awareness are one in the workplace, and that would be when you're in our workplace. I don't know, I mean, I can't speak for if you work anywhere else but here, but I know for a fact that at Elevation, that we are constantly giving people feedback, positive and negative feedback. And we have the end of year evaluations where you sit down and you write out a whole long thing. I mean, God, they are so long. And then your supervisor writes out theirs, and then you meet together and you like read your answers to each other and all that. And if you get hired, you'll have the opportunity to be a part of that. And I think when your supervisor tells you something that you need to work on, your instinct reaction is going to be to make an excuse or to blame or to defend or or even like deny, like you can't even receive it. And I think it's okay too that initially when you receive feedback that's really hard to hear, it's okay for in the moment for you to experience all of those things and for you to do all of those things, to blame, to whatever those things that I said, to defend, to deny, to be like in complete denial, like, no, I don't do that, I didn't do that. Okay, so it's okay to have those initial reactions. But when you get home and when you're processing through, you have to take that information, you have to go, God, do I really do this? Is this really something that, if you truly don't feel like you do it, take it to the Lord and be like, God, show me how I do this. But that's the opportunity right there, is in that difficult conversation. I also think that God gives us self-awareness through encouragement, but we don't receive that either. Like when somebody says, wow, you're really good at X, or you were incredible in that was your thing, that was your moment. And maybe it's like you don't want that to be your thing, like maybe you want to be a singer. And don't all the worship people have to do like pastoral whatever, right, in here? If you're a worship 2K2, you go through all the same stuff. So maybe like what you think you want to do is lead on stage, but this person that you're under for this cycle of your program is like, wow, you are incredibly good. You shine at this, and that's not what you want to shine at. Mm-hmm. And so you don't want to receive that. And there was your opportunity to have some self-awareness in a good way. And I think a lot of times it's more difficult to receive, to internalize and truly receive positive feedback than it is negative feedback. Yeah. Because negative feedback you can take and you can just beat yourself up over. You can be like, I suck. I'm never going to be good at this. I don't know why. Like you can take it that way too. You don't necessarily have to be in denial. You can be like, I know. I'm terrible. I'm awful. I shouldn't even be in ministry. God doesn't even need me. He shouldn't use me. Have you ever gone there? Right? So that's you're not receiving it in that place either. Okay? And so I think like this whole idea of self-awareness, we don't receive positive feedback either because you got a hole in your bucket. You've been. This is another little teaching that I'm working on, the woman at the well. So for the first week of the Bible study, I talk about how you can't have successful relationships with people if you don't have a living, breathing relationship with God. And how Jesus said to the woman at the well, he said, I have water to drink that, he said, I don't know, drink from me, whatever, exactly. But I'm like over here drinking salt water, and God's saying, I have water that you can drink, that you will not be thirsty anymore. But I'm over here drinking from, needing fulfillment from all the wrong places, from all the wrong people. And if I'm in this place, even if somebody gives me positive feedback, it washes right through me. I can't receive it because I'm not full in the right way from the right places. The other area, so I said self-awareness, the whole thing of blind spots and self-awareness. One way that God can enlighten you to areas is in the workplace, in our workplace. And the other way is in relationships with the people that are closest to you. If you have somebody in your life that you love and that you care about, and they say to you, in like, usually it's like in an argument or whatever, and they say, why do you always do that? Okay? If anybody ever says to you, why do you always do that? That is your opportunity right there to go,
it's great.
I don't know. Why do I always do that? Rather than, well, I always do that because you always blah, 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 blah. That's your immediate reaction when somebody says, why do you always do that? And again, I don't think God is as concerned of my immediate reaction as is about my actual action that I take, okay? So don't get so bogged down in the fact that, like, I just had a knockdown, drag out argument with my spouse about why are you always late, okay? And I want to be like, well, I'm always late because you don't help me. This is not an actual argument that I had with my husband, I promise you. But let's just make up a scenario. I'm always late because I'm the only one who does the laundry, unloads the dishwasher, puts the kids' shoes on, changes the kids' diapers, blah, 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 blah. And if you would help me out a little bit, I wouldn't always be late, right? That's your immediate reaction, okay? But let's take it to, like, your later thought, okay? So now you've had this big argument, whatever. Now I'm sitting down, and I want to go back and I want to process, why am I always late? Is it because I like to be in control? Is it because I like for people to wait on me? Is it because I'm insensitive and I don't pay attention to what time it is, but I'm so selfishly doing the things that I need to do that I don't think about how I'm making other people wait on me? And just like you process through, like, let go of the, oh, I'm always late because I'm the only one that ever does anything around here. Well, welcome to adulthood, right. You know? Everybody feels that way. Newsflash. He feels like you never do anything, and you feel like he never does anything, okay? So that's marriage. And right? I mean, that's marriage. So the sooner that I get past that and to the thing that God actually wants to show me about myself, the more that I'm not going to keep having that same old argument. Right. And I think that's God is way less concerned about how you reacted and how you need to correct yourself as he is about you not continually making the same mistake over and over and over again, or having the same argument with your spouse over and over and over again. It's not about what actually, this is speaking from a person who is punctually challenged, okay? It's not, I had to learn that I always have a reason for why I'm late, okay? And sometimes it's a good reason, like it's not my fault, and sometimes it is my fault. Well, I lost track of time, or I thought I had more time than I did, or this happened with the kids, that one would be not my fault, or I got stuck in traffic. But if you're always late, it doesn't matter. You know, they don't care because you're always late. So it always feels like you don't respect my time. You don't, you only think about yourself. And, you know, get away from my illustration of you being always late. But the point is, can you get to the bottom of why am I always late? How can I fix this? How does it make other people feel? And what baby steps can I take? So like for me, one baby step, I'm really into baby steps, okay? I am not like the book that we read, it's called The Me I Want to Be. That was the book we read last month. It's by John Ortberg. It's a really great book if you've never read it. It's old. The Me I Want to Be by John Ortberg. But if you are on this like self-awareness journey, I highly suggest that book. But he talks about this idea of trying softer, meaning like, he's like, don't try harder, try softer. So the best way I can illustrate that for you is in like dieting and exercise, okay? If you are like, okay, I'm never going to eat carbs or sugar again, I'm going to exercise every day. Well, you may have great success from that for maximum 12 weeks, okay? But if you go 12 weeks never eating anything fun and exercising 6 or 7 days a week, you're going to burn out. So you might have short-term success, but you're probably not going to have long-term success, okay? So trying softer is more about making a small change that can have a lasting effect. So like for me, with the idea of being punctual, I came to this place where I was like, okay, I can't be on time for everything. I can't. But I can make a goal of things that I will not be late for, okay? So I will not be late for church, and I will not be late for picking up my husband for our dates, okay? So I'm doing awesome at the first one, and I'm doing pretty awesome at the second one, okay? And I've finally come to a place in my life where if I know that my husband if we've said we're going to leave at 6, or a lot of times for our date night, I'll pick him up here. I'm going to pick you up at 6. I'm going to pick him up at 6 o'clock because honestly, because if I'm late, if I roll up here 15 minutes late, then we're going to get in the car mad at each other for our date. That's fun, like way to start off your date night with everybody being like, if I'd have known you were going to be 15 minutes late, I would have worked 15 minutes longer. And so, okay, I'm not going to be late for that. I'm not going to be late for church. But if you're having lunch or coffee with me, I'm probably going to be 5 minutes late. Okay? So there. I'm working on it. And maybe in 10 years, if we're having lunch or coffee, I won't be 5 minutes late. But I'm going to bite off what I can chew in this season of my life. I'm going to find one thing that I always do that I wish I could fix, and I'm going to fix one tiny thing about that. And I'm not going to say I'm never going to be late again, because the problem with me is I never know what time it is, okay? Like, honestly, that's why I said I need a clock, because half of my watches I wear they're just jewelry. I don't know. This watch doesn't even have numbers on it, okay? So like if you struggle with telling time, not a good watch for you, okay? It's really just jewelry. And because I'll look at it, I did this the other day. Where were we? Oh, it was Sunday night with the backstage pass thing. Saturday night with the backstage pass. And we've been taking pictures with people for a long time. And I looked at my watch and I was like, somebody said, oh, it's late, we got to get you guys to eat. And I looked at my watch and I was like, yeah, it's 8 o'clock. I said, is it 8 o'clock or 7 o'clock? Because my watch doesn't have numbers. So that's my thing. But at least I know that about myself. That's self-awareness, okay? Why am I always late? Because I never know what time it is. So what am I going to do? Make it a digital clock. I'm going to set myself timers. I'm going to make my all the things that late people need to do. I'm trying all of those things and trying to figure out what works for me. But that's what self-awareness is. Self-awareness isn't necessarily fixing the thing about yourself. But it's at knowing. And then making accommodations for it, okay? It's not like I'm always going to struggle with being late, okay? But I have to know that. If I don't know that, I can't even fix it. I can't even be on time for the things that are important.